Hi, everybody. Welcome back inside Heinz Field for Training Camp Live, presented by FedEx. Day 3 of Steelers training camp. 2 days in pads, and today, no pads for the Steelers as they are able to up the minutes to 120. Hi, everybody. I'm Missi Matthews, joined by Mike Prisuta, once again giving you a live look in. The players are starting to take the field. Another beautiful day. I don't want to jinx it. We've had really nice weather. I like our vantage point from up here in the tent, and so far, so good.
Yeah, it's a little too nice today. You know, that establishing shot, that's what you TV people call that, right? When you come
beautiful,
in,
yeah.
Kind of pan. It comes pretty close to doing justice to how beautiful these conditions are. Missy, this is the kind of day that the coaches would actually gripe about were we at St. Vincent College because they wouldn't perceive it to be hot enough.
Yeah.
You want to work these guys at training camp when you can and really, sweat them into shape. And it's just spectacular today. A little too breezy. I got to kind of weigh down all my papers and cheat sheets here because we got a nice breeze blowing, spectacular sunshine. Great day to be at Heinz Field.
All right, as I said, 2 days in pads today, no pads for the Steelers, as you can see them starting to take the field, practice again, starting around 1:30. We did have a chance to see the O-line, of course, coming out as a group together onto the field. Marquise Pouncey is still back. Al Villanueva was dressed like he was going to practice today, so we will keep our eye on some of the guys, Prisuta, that were on the practice report. As Coach Tomlin explained after practice yesterday, some vets days will be given off, not just to let them rest their bodies, but also to see what the young guys can do. And I think that's something they're going to have a fine balance with due to the crunch time.
Yeah, Mike Tomlin talked about that in great detail. That's something that he likes to make sure takes place at training camp, and it's a twofold approach. You want to take care of your veterans, make sure that nobody's getting worn down too quickly. The experienced guys that you know what to expect from can take a day off here and there. But also you get those young guys in, Missy, and it accelerates development. And you never know when you're going to need those guys, particularly some of the backup people that are going to have to play multiple roles. I believe Mike Tomlin calls that position flexibility. I'm not sure if I've heard that referenced once or twice over the years, but
just a few times.
You need to start working that when you can as well. So.
All right, and there you see on the right side of the screen, number 69, that's rookie Kevin Dotson, who left practice with the help of Ben Roethlisberger yesterday. He is out there. We'll have to wait and see if he is able to do anything or if he's just out here to participate. But he was being evaluated after practice yesterday. Same with Dax Raymond, the tight end, who also left practice early. So those were the two injuries that, as Coach said, they happen. The train is moving. We hear that often as well. And it'll be next man up or, whatever happens. But those are two young guys that missing time is not good for them.
Yeah, it's a big deal because, you know what happens when that train starts moving.
You got to get back on, and it's already gone.
It makes it hard to jump onto it because it's moving. Hence the hard moving to jump train. On a moving train, Tomlinism. That's great to see Kevin Dotson. That is an encouraging sign as you get a look at David DeCastro, Still dressed, as the practice pool report told us on day one, in black socks, black shorts, a black shirt, and black hat. David DeCastro, the man in black.
Hey, he has a look, and he is sticking with it. I respect that.
I wonder if he's been everywhere, man.
You lost me there.
That's a Johnny Cash.
Oh,
See,
sorry, Priscilla.
There used to be this old country guy named Johnny Cash, and he was really famous, and he was called the Man in Black because he wore black all the time.
Get it.
And he also sung about trains a lot, which brings us to that moving train thing again.
There you go, and we keep going back and back. All right,
Google Johnny Cash.
Okay.
You'll get an
I've heard of him.
Yeah.
All right, so again, no pads for the Steelers today. Some other guys besides Dave DeCastro, who Coach said vets days off. Al Villanueva, who looks like he will be going today. Eric Ebron, we have not seen him yet. Same with Joe Hayden. Again, the injuries. Kevin Dotson, we saw him out on the field. Not sure what he'll be able to do. Dax Raymond, and then also James Washington is pursued as somebody we've been watching throughout this portion that we are able to view. Somebody who hasn't been able to do a full practice yet in terms of what we can see.
No, but unlike David DeCastro, he has not been all in black. He's actually had the white jersey on.
He did have a jersey on yesterday.
With the number 13, and he, according to our handy-dandy pool reports that we get every day after practice, Washington has been jogging around the field. He's been catching some passes. There you see he's got a helmet on. So maybe that's an encouraging sign.
That's a good sign, right?
But he was working with the QBs, catching passes when they weren't required, whether it was a special teams drill or some other period where they weren't needed. But James Washington, a guy that, his name came up again yesterday, Vance McDonald talking about the different receivers and the different skill sets and different abilities. And McDonald referenced again that James Washington ability to go up and get the ball no matter how contested the situation. So the Steelers want to get him back. They want to see how all this fits together. Chase Claypool showing up the first couple of days. Well, I don't know if you're hearing that wind in your headset the way I am mine, but that breeze I was talking about a minute ago is blowing. Our tent's blowing a little bit out here. It's nothing we can't handle.
That's right. Maybe my hair, I could go for a ponytail holder at this point, but that's okay because we are here for football, so that does not matter. Number 7 yesterday, Coach Tomlin was asked about Ben Roethlisberger, Prisuta, in terms of, he was out there again, what's going on, and he said, look, he has a schedule. We are going to adhere to it, just like Stefan Tuitt. Ben Roethlisberger has been cleared by all of the doctors, the medical professionals, as Coach calls him. So I am interested, though, to see, because it is a no-pad day, and we did see him 3 days in a row, 2 days in a row, what he is going to do today, if anything.
Yeah, in recent years past, it's been 1 day full go, 1 day half go, and then take a day off for Ben Roethlisberger. Mike Tomlin did emphasize yesterday, Missy, that the schedule that they have carved out for Ben Roethlisberger is not based on this is a guy coming off elbow surgery. It's based on this is a guy with full medical clearance.
And there we see him right there.
Who is going to work as we see fit. And, we saw him a second ago. He was applying the hand sanitizer. Not sure what that means in terms of his ability to participate. But Ben Roethlisberger showed up yesterday. You mentioned a minute ago the Kevin Dotson injury. Mm-hmm. And Dotson had to be helped off the field. And the people who helped him off the field, one was a member of the training staff, and the other one was Ben Roethlisberger. And Mike Tomlin was asked about that. Roethlisberger coming over with Dotson down on the field. And Tomlin talked about Roethlisberger in the perspective of a guy who has been down on the field and a guy who understands the fear when you're in that situation, particularly a young player such as Dotson, a rookie just trying to, take his first steps and find his way, and all of a sudden something's drastically wrong. And Ben Roethlisberger there to lead and lend any kind of moral support that he could. Just another snippet to me, Missy, of how engaged and involved Ben Roethlisberger is here in training camp 2020. It's it's about the team, but it's about him as much, if not more, than anybody else on the team.
Absolutely, and I am told by Alec down on the field, our helpful extra set of eyes for us, Prisuta, that Eric Ebron is down there and has a helmet, so maybe not another Vets Day off for him. I know there's a lot of excitement with him and just the energy he's been bringing to practices, getting to know his new teammates, and the excitement that him and Vance McDonald could potentially bring to this offense.
And that was something that was discussed yesterday by Vance McDonald and by the tight ends coach, James Daniel. Having 2 tight ends is great. But what's even better is if you can have 2 tight ends that can contribute in the running game and in the passing game. As Daniel explained it, if you have 2 tight ends out there but the defense knows you're going to run the ball, that's a little easier to prepare for. If the defense knows they're both catching threats but they're not going to help you much in the running game, then that's easier to prepare for. If you can do either one, if you can run or pass out of the same personnel group, that keeps the defense off balance. And, Missy, I think that's one reason why the people who are putting together our handy-dandy pool reports at the end of practice, they have made note that Mike Tomlin has been keeping a close watch on Eric Ebron doing the tight end individual stuff, the one-on-one blocking sled work, the work against the linebackers, because they want their guys to be able to block. And Eric Ebron's a guy who comes here. Hey, 2 years ago he had a 13-touchdown season in Indianapolis, but he doesn't necessarily have a reputation as a blocker that he's brought with him. So I'm sure that's something that the Steelers really want to see him develop and do it the way they want it done, and be that dual threat guy that you can have him out there when you're running the ball as well as throwing it.
And we are taking a live look at Eric Ebron working the jugs machine prior to practice starting, also having a little fun with Zach Banner just there. I don't know if you saw that, Prisuta. But sticking with the tight end position.
Everybody has fun with Zach Banner, right?
That's true. That's true.
TJ Watt had some fun with him yesterday.
He did.
A couple of close encounters, according to
our let's go there then. I was going to skip ahead to something else, but you know what? The practice report for sure, whenever you saw, I want to pull it up so I have the exact wording for it, because I think it added a little excitement to the practice report yesterday. Sorry, I had it pulled up here.
I got it committed to memory. Close encounters. And close encounters was in quotes.
Close disagreements.
Oh, okay.
That's why I wanted to be exact. It said linebacker T.J. Watt and Zach Banner engaged in a couple of close disagreements during practice.
And that's why I just misspoke, because I interpreted that, since it was in quotes and it said close disagreements, I immediately flashed back to Close Encounters, which is another movie you probably have no idea about, just like Johnny Cash.
I've heard of it.
But it was about aliens coming down to Earth, and if you had physical contact with an alien, that was called a close encounter. So, surmise and
connecting the dots there.
Extrapolate out, add 1 and 1, and you'll probably get to 2 in terms of what that meant when Zach Banner and T.J. Watt got together. But, that's fine.
I think we're used to seeing a little bit of maybe tension between the O-line and different groups on the defense. Sometimes it's the D-line when you're going back to the camps at St. Vincent. So yesterday, I don't know if we want to call it our first one, but it's the first one that we are allowed to talk about. So interesting that it was between T.J. Watt, though, and Zach Banner.
Our first 2 close disagreements. And, as you just mentioned, some of that stuff is inevitable given the training camp environment. But also keep in mind, they're not going to tolerate a whole lot of it, because one of the ever-present themes here, and particularly this year, is professional practice etiquette. You always hear Mike Tomlin emphasizing that. There's T.J. Watt smiling. They're probably talking about, hey, what did he say to you, man? What went on?
That happened yesterday after practice.
Yeah. They got to prepare, but they also have to make sure that they're paying attention to preservation. Everybody's got to be ready to go on September 14th against who, Missy?
The New York Football Giants.
Against the New York Football Jets.
I hope Labs is watching, and he's proud of me.
By the way, did you hear the Giants coach yesterday?
I did not.
Joe Judge, he was talking about the physicality of their camp, and he said, hey, the Pittsburgh Steelers aren't coming here to hug us. We better be ready to play ball. So their reputation will precede them in New York against those football Giants.
Absolutely. You were talking about TJ Watt with the whole thing with Zach Banner. Joe Hayden spoke yesterday and was talking about how much energy TJ Watt brings, not only to practices, to games, just how maniacal he is about things. And I think, Prisuta, getting a chance to, before the whole social distancing thing, when you would talk to TJ in the locker room, just the fire that he brought, how angry, or he definitely let his emotions show, put it that way.
Yeah, and he's a guy, he's shown up both days on that aforementioned handy-dandy practice pool report. Here's what's been said about T.J. Watt. This is just 2 days in pads now. Sweet move and backs on backers. He split the tight ends, Vance McDonald and Zach Gentry. Made closing tackles in quick succession in the live 11-on-11 period. That was Monday. Yesterday, quick and forceful tackle of linebacker Anthony McFarland Jr. in the live period. Engaged in a couple of close disagreements with Zach Banner, as we've been talking about. And here's my favorite. Appears to be in mid-season form. Now, here's one thing we have to say about our handy-dandy practice reports to provide context. Those are being compiled by a collection of print media, and those people kind of change on a daily basis here. I'm not sure who's involved in, compiling the practice report every day, making these observations. I'm not sure I agree with every one of them, but I'll tell you what. Appears to be in mid-season form. Yeah, I got no problem with that. T.J. Watt looks fantastic out here.
All right, and the Steelers are starting promptly. You just heard the horn there, so as you can see, they are beginning to do their group warm-ups, the stretch, before they move into individuals. Yeah, we should get you to do some of those, Prisuta, in between shows today. Yeah. I'm also told that Joe Hayden is out there and has his helmet. Again, no pads today, so it's kind of hard to tell if guys will be getting vets days off, but we will keep our eyes open and try to bring as much new information during training camp live presented by FedEx today. But we were talking about the tight end position and Vance McDonald and his interview yesterday. It was via Zoom, but Vance is one of those guys that really lets you know what he's thinking. Sometimes it feels a little long, but the thoughts are put there, and we did want to play a little bit of part of his interview yesterday and also give you a live look at the tight ends as they begin their warm-up portion of practice.
Yeah, there was a couple of times during the offseason that we held kind of an off-site practice, and I can remember being around some of the guys and just like watching them, and you could tell he was really interested in trying to like push, not necessarily like the limitations, but to just like push some of his throws and some of his arm action to test it. And I don't know, whether to build confidence or whatever it is at that point of his rehab or recovery. But he was making some insane throws, like off of his back foot, cross field, to like Deontay Spencer just like running, Deontay Johnson just like running throughout the end zone to like the back pylon. And I just remember like in that moment thinking like, golly, like he is really back. Like it's just crazy and awesome to see. Because Ben and I were close. I mean, I share a locker next to him. I know how frustrated he was last year. I know how bad it killed him to know that the thing that was bothering him in the Seattle game was as bad as it ended up being, and that it required surgery and stuff. And so you just think about like that's months and months and months of this piled up energy, anxiety, stress, frustration. I mean, everything. And then you get to a moment where you're finally around his teammates again, having, spent the entire offseason, getting to a point where he's actually starting to throw. And all of a sudden he's just like this cannon and he's just ready to explode and ready to go and shoot. And you get us all out there on that field. And it was so fun to see. I distinctly remember talking to some of the receivers. I was talking to Eric too. Like, dude, this is so fun to see Ben like this. Like he's pushing his arm to the limits, like just really, testing to see what it can do. And obviously having like a really fun time because everything was a positive note on that day. And so it was really cool to see.
All right, Prisuta, 2 quick things about Vance McDonald. As you can see, the longer hair, no clue how long that's going to go for or the reason for that. But I think I was telling you off air yesterday, I had the pleasure of doing a Steelers Nation Unite huddle with Vance right before training camp, actually. And one of the fans asked him about his workouts and how hard it was to get ready without having the normal OTAs and minicamp. And Vance bought a farm last year, right before training camp, out in Ligonier, which for him was great being at St. Vincent College because it was such a close commute, and said they have so many animals now and just the work that goes into it, and said that really was actually a large portion of how he tried to stay in shape and what he got to do. And of course you heard there about the player initiative to get together as much as possible, as safely as possible, but to try to learn about each other and what this offense could bring with some of the new pieces this offseason.
Yeah, and the descriptions that he came up with, Ben Roethlisberger, he's exploding like a cannon. Golly, he really is back.
Right.
You don't know who Gomer Pyle is either, right? That used to be Gomer Pyle's catchphrase.
You're losing me here.
Another show you got to Google. It's about a Marine and his sergeant. Comedy, but very touching. Vance McDonald has talked a lot since he's come to Pittsburgh about Ben Roethlisberger. As he mentioned, they share locker room space. They're right next to each other. And he knows him really well. And to see him, he's so animated when he's telling us about this stuff. He's motioning, making the throwing motion, and he's engaged. That was great stuff. You mentioned it went on a while. It went on about 20 minutes. And it was dynamite, just about every bit of it. But
it's good stuff. I didn't want that to come out the wrong way.
Great stuff.
It's always thoughtful, and you get what he's feeling and what he's trying to articulate.
I got to tell you, I'm starting to really like the look of guys wearing masks and talking on these Zooms that are not quite. It looks like somewhere between a still shot and live. The movements are a little robotic, and it's not what you're used to seeing. But I'm warming up to it.
It is a new world, but yes, it is becoming the norm for sure. Of course, we have social media involved in today's training camp live show as well. As I said, coming up in a little bit later, we're going to be talking a lot about this running backs. There are 8 currently on the roster, so you still have time to send us in some of your questions. I will hopefully be able to answer some. Mike will be able to answer some as we kind of break down that group. But we do.
I like the way that's worded. We'll try to answer.
Well, I don't want to promise too much, right? Yeah, we'll do our best. There are some good ones. I had a chance to take a peek at some of them, so we appreciate everybody sending them in every single day. We also asked fans to tell us what player they wanted to see. Put the camera on them. Who's somebody you want to see during this portion of practice? And we got a lot of responses. Of course, the first day it was Ben Roethlisberger. And then Heather put out, she wants to see Vince Williams. And you know what, Mike, that's somebody we haven't talked a ton about so far during this portion of training camp, but somebody we had a chance to hear from on Zoom not too long ago. And our good friend Tunch Ilkin is hopefully ready and raring to go. And Tunch, if you can hear me, I know today you wanted to answer Heather's tweet and talk a little bit about Vince Williams.
Missy, Vince is I'm a big fan of Vince's, and one of the things he does, he's old school. He's a thumper. He plays downhill. He attacks the offensive line. And, inside linebackers play with their eyes. And they've got to be physical, and they've got to be attack mode, and that's what he is. But one of the things that I really love about Vince is that he sees the play, and he never guesses wrong. It's like he goes to the back door or cuts him off at the pass, and he always guesses right. And one of the things I love about Vince is that he attacks the guys, he attacks the offensive linemen, and he's the great player, and he anticipates as far as the cadence goes. You can see him. He's reading the quarterback, he's reading the line, the running backs, and he's reading the center and the guards. And you know what? He often cheats to the side he thinks the play's going, and he always guesses right. So I'm a big fan of Vince. He's old school. He's a thumper. He's very, very physical, and he plays with his eyes.
Tunch, one of his strong suits has always been communication. That's something he said he's trying to work with Devin Bush on in year 2 for him. How do you teach something like that in terms of if a guy doesn't understand it, you can't communicate it? So how does Vince help Devin Bush do that?
Well, they're always talking, and they play in unison, and they play well together because Devin is the athletic guy. He's the sideline guy. And Vince is the thumper, the physical guy in attack mode. And, they communicate, like on the offensive line. We communicate, we see a blitz coming and we call out the blitz. Wolf and I would call out blitz coming and combination block coming. And so he does a great job of communicating with Devin Bush, and I think they play really well together.
Tunch, one of the things he ended up doing last year, and I don't remember much, if any of this previously, but they were kind of running out of defensive linemen there for a while, and they put him in as a rusher in the sub package. Right. And he's always been a good blitzer from the linebacker position, but I thought he brought a lot as a front of the defense rushman. I don't want to say hand in the ground guy because they don't always do that anymore, but he can come from that front group and he can be effective. What is the reason for that, do you think?
Mikey, he has a knack for rushing the passer. He has a great pass rush road. He throws the rip. He comes back across the face of the offensive guard, and he swims and he clubs. And then one of the things I love, one of the pass rushes he does is he shakes and then he explodes with a bull rush, and he locks out and he pushes the guard or the center or the running back into the quarterback's lap, and he's got a knack for that.
All right, Tunch, we appreciate your player spotlight today. Thanks for helping Heather learn a little bit more about Vince Williams. Appreciate your time as always. And what's up, Mike?
I guess, we got something in common. Tunch said that he swims and he clubs. I may do that this weekend. I might go swimming and then go do a little clubbing.
Oh, boy. Don't take any photos, okay?
I didn't say bull rush.
We'll send you to the school.
Swimming and clubbing sounds like a lot of fun to me. I'm not sure we're talking about the same thing, but
no, I don't think so. But hey, sticking right there, number 91, Stefan Tuitt. We had a chance to hear from him today via Zoom, and I think you listened on your phone, Prisuta, but
I tried. It crapped out.
Tuitt was all smiles, as is always Tuitt. He always has that smile on his face. So just some notes to quickly go over of things that he said. Said he's just doing as part of trying to come back and get acclimated to this defense after missing a lot of last season. Coach Tomlin had talked about how that first day in pads, he even said to Tuitt, this has to be exciting for you being away for football for so long. Tuitt said the pec is feeling good, stronger than it was before the injury, and said that Cam Hayward, who had a similar injury before, helped him kind of through that rehab process and what he needs to do to get better, which has obviously worked for him. And also said that last year, if the Steelers would have made the playoffs, there was a chance he would have been able to come back. So Of course, we will never know if that would have happened or not, but that was something that Tuitt shared today. He, of course, got the question about Cam Hayward's contract situation and, said what everybody knows. Cam is a great player, a great individual off of the field, but it is above his pay grade. So hoping that something works out there. Those two, quite the duo. And I know we've said this on, I think, day one with Tuitt. I think he had 3.5 sacks through those first 6 games before he got injured. And what a shame it was that he wasn't able to there. Think about how many more sacks they would have potentially had.
Yeah, just think about what this defense could look like with Stefon Tuitt and Cam Hayward in the middle on the sub-package stuff, with T.J. Watt and Bud Dupree on the other side, and a second-year, much more acclimated, much more confident and comfortable Devin Bush right behind them. There's a lot of possibilities there, but for that to happen, Stefon Tuitt has to stay healthy. And Missy, he's not dissimilar to Vance McDonald in that regard. Stefon Tuitt played 16 games as a rookie in 2014. He hasn't done that since. And in the last 3 seasons, he's missed a combined 16 games. So in the last 3 years, he's missed a year.
Yeah.
And they need him on the field because, as you mentioned, he was just really taken off like a jet last year at the start of the season, and he's got all the ability in the world. He's been monstrously productive at times. They just need him out there.
All right, let's move over to the other side of the ball, talking about running backs. We asked you to submit your questions for us today. As I said, we will try to answer as many as possible and to the best of our ability, but there are 8 running backs in that room, including fullback Derek Watt, James Conner, Trey Edmonds, Anthony McFarland Jr., Jalen Samuels, Wendell Smallwood, Benny Snell Jr., and Kareth White. So let's get to the first question coming from Ted. He says, Mike Tomlin usually likes to have a lead dog. Conner is that elite running back and lead dog when healthy. Do you guys think he'll give Conner more rest this year and distribute more opportunities to other running backs to keep some wear and tear off Conner?
Well, first off, I got to say Ted has got to be from Pittsburgh because
S?
he put the S on the end of Conner. Instead of Conner, it's Connors.
That's Giant Eagle.
That's a Pittsburgh thing. Good job, Ted. I'm saluting that. I'm not criticizing it. I think this year's going to be a little different. I know Mike Tomlin is usually a run 'em till the wheels fall off kind of guy, but I think the different circumstances of this season, everybody is going to have to be conscious, about what stage of preparedness their guys are in and how much they can take. I think that goes for all positions, but I think that's going to go for running back in particular. James Conner has been injured each of his 3 years. He's coming off a very atypical year in terms of preparing because of the COVID and everything that we're going through. So it would not surprise me at all, Missy, to see a division of labor in September at least. And I also think there are more options. You know a little bit more about Benny Snell. You know a little bit more about Jalen Samuels. There's more to choose from at running back. One of the speed guys, whether it's Wendell Smallwood, who is a veteran that they picked up and has a history in the league. He has a little bit of a history against the Steelers going back to 2016, whether that's Kareth White, whether that's Anthony McFarland Jr. You've got guys that can pound away, including the new and improved Benny Snell. You've got guys that are great in the passing game. You have guys that are potential home run hitters, and because you have to be a little bit maybe more cautious than normal because of conditions, I think it only makes good sense to explore those options, at least in the early going this season, until you can really get rolling.
And you mentioned Anthony McFarland Jr., and that's somebody who has been on the practice report each and every day. I think a lot of eyes, of course, are going to be on the rookies because of Chase Claypool. We've talked a lot about him and that touchdown pass from Ben Roethlisberger, but also Alex Highsmith. But with McFarland, I think that's a good thing, especially when there is such a large number of running backs currently on the roster, Mike.
Yeah, and it started out on Monday with backs on backers, and we saw him getting, according to the handy-dandy, much-referenced practice pool report, we saw him getting a disproportionate number of snaps. That's because, particularly the first time out, they're going to kind of throw the rookies in the deep end of the pool and see how long they can swim.
Good luck.
Before they have to throw him a life preserver. But ran for a touchdown yesterday in 7 shots, has shown burst. He's going to have a specific job this year. They're not expecting him to come in and take over and be the 3-down guy, but he can cut decisively and he can go 0 to 60 pretty quick. And if you do that, you can hit some balls in the gap. You can hit some balls over the fence. They call those kind of backs home run hitters, Missy, because they take the ball a long way and sometimes they change the scoreboard.
I got that reference, so that's a good one, right?
We're 1 for 4.
Yeah, all right. Let's move on to our next Twitter question regarding the running backs to see if we can answer it. This one is if Benny Snell looks quicker and faster, as some have been reporting, is he a threat to cut into Connor's carries? Thanks from Denmark. And quickly, just to add a little substance here, we just had a chance to Zoom with Benny Snell before practice started here at Heinz Field. He said he is down to 212, was at about 224, so he's kind of taking that Le'Veon Bell approach where you come back for year 2 shredded and ready to go. And Coach Tomlin mentioned him and Deontay Johnson as 2 guys entering year 2 who have come ready to play and in good physical conditioning. That's the first part, but now what are you going to do? Can you take that jump and not have that sophomore slump?
I think you're going to find out early. It kind of dovetails with our previous question that, yeah, they're probably going to divide it up a little more. So, yeah, I would think at least initially some of James Conner's carries may be distributed elsewhere. Now, maybe Conner goes out against the New York Football Giants and rushes for 208 yards on his first 17 carries, and they say, you know what, you're getting the ball because you're ready.
Yeah.
But I don't think anybody's going to show that type of readiness right off the bat. So, yeah, I would expect they're going to ease into it from a relying too heavily on one guy's standpoint. Just a hunch on my part.
Right. And Benny did say, he was asked, what is the division of labor? What are you being told by coaches? He said, we all kind of have that going on, but we don't know yet how everybody's going to be used or what's going to happen. They have 3 weeks to figure that out. He did say in terms of losing that weight and getting more in shape, the team gave him a plan. He stuck with it. He feels really great and is hoping that is going to help him. So we, as you said, time will tell. So
I will say this, Snell's the guy, other than Ben Roethlisberger, that's the guy that I was most interested in seeing coming to camp this year, just to see the progress and to see if he might be worthy of getting an increased role. I thought at times last year when they had to rely on him, the Chargers game comes to mind when James Conner was playing great and then he got hurt, and in the second half they turned to Benny Snell and 17 or 18 carries of rock'em sock'em football. Benny a little quicker. He's talking about being more of a lateral guy this year as well as a sledgehammer. I'm curious to see what he can do because I know the team, Missy, was very encouraged and impressed at the end of last season.
Benny Snell football. We'll see. All right, let's get to another Twitter question here as we continue to talk about running backs. How many running backs will the Steelers keep on the 53-man roster, and how many make the expanded 16-man practice squad? This is from Steelers Super Fan Dad. I shouldn't have said it because I knew I wouldn't get it all out. What do you think here? As I said, Mike, there are 8 currently in the running backs room. That includes fullback Derek Watt, who I do want to mention in just a little bit from what special teams coordinator Danny Smith said. But as you're sitting here today knowing that this is a different world in terms of forming a roster for teams in the COVID-19 era, so what's your take?
That's going to be fascinating to see how they populate that enlarged practice squad. Are you keeping guys that you think are the best developmental prospects, or are you keeping guys at positions you think you might need in case somebody ends up unavailable because of COVID-19? I think it's going to be the latter. And you mentioned there's 8 guys at running back, counting Derek Watt. He's on the team, clearly. I think you'll see 4 others, and then at least 2 more on the practice squad, because that position, I think, is going to be one of those ones that's viewed as so important. Remember last year, they had to go get Kareth White off the Bears practice squad. They were scrounging at times for people to carry the ball. You don't want to be in that position again, and you understand going in that it's way more likely that one position could all of a sudden suffer a run of unavailability. Depleted is a better way to put it. So you got, better keep your feathers numbered for just such an emergency. Pay attention when I'm talking to you, son. That's Foghorn Leghorn.
Oh, my God, no.
You don't know
You
him,
are
eh?
really losing me today. All right, let's get back to another Twitter question to see. I think we have time for 2 more. They want to know, do you think that Anthony McFarland is going to have an impact this season? I think we touched on that a little bit, but I do feel like there is a chance for him, Mike, based on just the feedback that we're hearing. And as you said, he keeps popping up on the practice report. He
does, and it's going to have an impact on special teams. The assistant coach that likes to scream real loud, Danny Smith, I'm sure has some tasks for him in mind. Because remember Benny Snell last year, that's how he got Mike Tomlin's attention. He played really well on special teams, proved he could handle that. Okay, you got that. Let's see if you can handle this. And a lot of times that's the way it works. You are progressively asked to do more as you prove you can handle what you have been asked to do. But interesting guy. I saw him play a few times at Maryland, and interesting is the word that keeps bouncing around in my head. He wasn't a first-round pick. Not expecting him to come here and rush for 1,400 yards, but impact, that's a relatively open-ended question. So, yeah, somewhere, somehow, sure. Maybe one or two real long runs at just the right time, maybe some good special teams play. It all adds up.
Absolutely. All right, we have time for one more Twitter question, so let's get to that. This one is from Ryan. Who would you keep, Mike, Wendell Smallwood or Kareth White?
Can we play out camp first?
We can,
or
but
do I have to pick it now?
You don't have to. Well, I guess as we're sitting here today, this doesn't have to be your final roster that you're making.
Yeah, my lean right now, if you're just asking me my opinion, would be Smallwood, because as I mentioned, I think that's a guy who has done some things in the league, and maybe he hasn't been quite in the right situation yet. But if people remember that game against the Steelers, he was hard to stop in Philadelphia. What was that, 3 years ago, 2016? He had 79 or 80 yards rushing and a touchdown. The Eagles had a big win over the Steelers. He was a big part of it. Kareth White has got a lot of speed, and based on his circumstances last year, he really did probably more than they should have had a right to ask, given that, they pulled him off the Bears practice squad. But we'll see how much he's improved, and we'll see if maybe Pittsburgh is a better fit for Wendell Smallwood than Philadelphia or Washington, as we like to say around here.
All right, you did mention special teams coordinator Danny Smith. We also had a chance to Zoom with him today. He is very loud. I think he would actually take that as a compliment. But he talked a lot about Derek Watt, since we're talking about the running back position, number 44, you see right there. And he was asked, what do you have in plans for him in terms of special teams? That's something Mike Tomlin said, he is bringing to this Steelers squad. He said, well, he's a Watt. His mom and dad ought to be writing books, and we ought to be reading them. His makeup and understanding of the game, he's just specials. I got plans for him. We hope to continue his success. A very Danny Smith-like quote.
Yeah, there's another Mike Tomlinism that comes to mind. Everybody needs a Watt. And now
now we have two.
Now the Steelers have two of them. Although, if you're one of those people that's often wonder, why don't they go back to the fullback and bash, old school Steeler football? I don't think you're going to see a lot of fullback lead. If you recall, a week or so ago, Mike Tomlin was asked about Derek Watt, and he said he has functional fullback skills, but man, can he play special teams.
And you could tell Danny Smith had a big smile on his face when he was asked about what he is going to do with Derek Watt on special teams. Some other quick highlights from Danny Smith, since it happened just before practice got started. He was asked about missing the preseason games, and he kind of went with the Coach Tomlin line of all 32 teams have the same problem. But he did say here at Heinz Field with the Steelers, they've been trying to do a lot of game-like simulation as much as they can when the offense gets off, having special teams come on and moving guys, whatever they can do to try to help as much as possible to prepare them. Said there was a lot of blocks in the back that he saw on tape, and let his team know about that this morning whenever they were going through film. Also was asked about Chase Claypool and said keep promoting him as a wide receiver so he can sneak up on some people on special teams.
Yeah, and that's going to be a big part of his game as well. You talk about impact. That's another guy, maybe a situational offensive player, but a core special teamer. That's not bad for your first year.
No, absolutely. And they are getting ready for some of the competition period. Again, no pads today for the Steelers, but we did ask everybody on the Steelers Nation Unite Twitter page to submit your fan caves. And Mike, I don't know, I think this is probably what your basement looks like, but with Michigan State. But these are, these are ridiculous. I mean, look at those. Those are actual seats. Some of these are.
I got some of those.
These are just impressive.
I'm impressed with the helmets encased in whatever that is. That's big league.
A lot of dedication, and we appreciate everybody as much as possible sending us our tweets, sending us your tweets, your questions. Let us know.
Oh, it's got the sign behind it, too. Look at that. I didn't notice
with
the Heinz Field sign behind the Heinz Field seats.
I mean, just impressive. So we appreciate everybody submitting those. We will have some more fun social stuff planned. Yesterday we did that Tau giveaway. So we're hoping everyone's enjoying Steelers training camp live. We're having some fun. Tomorrow is an off day, though, for the players. So we will not have a show tomorrow, but we will be back on Friday. So
Not only do I have a couple seats from Three River Stadium, I used to have a hunk of the old AstroTurf from Three River Stadium, and I kept it out on my deck, and then it just got so crappy after a while that
You gave it away.
I had to retire it. But I love stuff like that. I am a collector of, I would say artifacts. Some people would say junk. Maybe somewhere in the middle is the
To
truth.
each their own, right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks so much for joining us here today on Training Camp Live presented by FedEx. We will see everybody back on Friday.